Hello fellow fraggers, my name is Frag himself, and this video is the third part of my tier list series where I rate cards by how good they are in different situations. So today, I'm going to be ranking cards in Frag by how good they are when you play them. I'm only going to cover half of the cards in Frag in this video because there's a lot of cards and I don't want the video to be too long, so part 2 is probably going to come out in a week or so. I think there's many reasons why a card would be better as a main, and most of the time, not always, because it always depends on what strategy you're using, but being fast is probably one of the most important things. You also need to have a good escape options, and of course a lot of damage is always pretty useful. Of course, I'm going to be splitting all of these cards into different categories based on how you should use them, or at least how I think you should use them, because this tier list is all my opinion, of course. Alright, let's jump into it. Let's talk a little bit about base rushers. So base rushers are usually gonna have a lot of damage in the close range, but they're usually not gonna have a lot of range. So that's why they would be better on a bunker, because bunkers don't move. Your strategy with base rushers should be to run to the bunkers as fast as you can and do as much damage as possible to them. Let's take Blot for example. He got nerfed pretty bad recently. Now his bunker damage got nerfed by 30%, so I still think he's pretty good on a bunker. At the end of the day, he can do a lot of damage, and he's pretty fast with his ultimate ability. He can hop from one bunker to the other very fast. Of course, Blood can still be used as a Slayer, which is a card that can get you frags, but he's definitely not as good as other cards in this list, so that's why I think he's a base rusher. So I'm going to place him in A tier. Let's take a look at a card that can do pretty much the same thing, which is Cactus. Cactus was the worst version of Blood before his nerf, but now I think people are realizing that she's really not that bad. I think she's better than Blood now, because she's faster overall, and her bunker damage is also slightly better. She's also very hard to hit, because she's fast and she's tiny. Yeah, I'm gonna place her in A tier. Smoker is definitely the worst version of the two, because first of all, it's very hard to get frags with him. His damage is pretty weird because it sort of has a weird hitbox around him that doesn't do much damage. He's also pretty fast with his motorcycle, but he does less damage overall than the other base rushers, and it's very hard to get frags with him. You sort of have to run away, so I'm gonna place him in D tier. Alright, let's take a look at the tankiest guy in the game, which is Lucha. Lucha is actually pretty fast if you know how to use his ultimate ability right. Having a lot of HP makes him pretty good overall, but the fact that he's so slow makes him hard to get frags with, because he has to catch up to other cards, and usually you're gonna have to use his ultimate ability for that. But on a bunker, he's very good. He can do a lot of damage, and of course he's hard to get rid of when he's on a bunker because of his high HP. So only because of that, I'm going to be placing him in B tier. Let's talk about Ollie. Ollie has a pretty high damage output. She's fast, but she's pretty easy to get rid of because she has low HP. I think the best use for her is to get on a bunker and using her ultimate ability to go from one bunker to another. I call this playstyle bunker to bunker, or B2B for short. She's also pretty good at fragging cards, but she doesn't have crazy range and she doesn't have any splash damage, so she's not very consistent with her frags. I'm still gonna place her in S tier because I think she's a very good main overall. Okay, let's go from one fast card to another, which is Snow. Snow is probably one of the fastest cards in the game. Now his ultimate ability that makes him able to turn while using it makes it a lot better, and he can get a lot of frags with it because he can do a lot of damage when you charge it up for long. And he can get to bunkers pretty damn fast. So that makes him a pretty good base rusher. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of damage and it's pretty hard to get frags with his main fire. So that's why I think base rushing is his best bet. I'm still gonna place him in B tier with Lucha. Alright, let's take a look at Volcano. Volcano has a very high damage output, so he's able to rush bunkers pretty well. Volcano is pretty easy to get rid of because he's very slow and he has low HP, so as a main, he's not great, but I'm gonna place him in C tier. Okay, let's talk about Buck. He's a worse version of Cactus because he has less damage and he's also a little bit slower. But I think he's fine. I'm gonna place him in B tier. Let's take a look at Jab. Jab has a little less damage than Buck, and he's pretty much similar to him. His shield is going to be better at fragging cards. However, Buck is going to be better on bunkers. I think Buck is slightly better because being on the bunker is usually better for close range cards. I'm gonna place Jab in B tier. Okay, let's take a look at Mr. Do. Mr. Do, I think, is very inconsistent. He has a very large bullet spread, which makes him less precise with his main fire, and I think it's pretty hard to get frags with him. But on bunkers, he's still pretty good, but he's slow, so it's gonna take a long time to get him there. Also, his ultimate ability is pretty much useless when you play against a real player because they're gonna see you anyway. I'm gonna place him in C tier. Prisoner 99 has a pretty nasty trick you can do on bunkers, which is shooting his saw at the roof of the bunker so it bounces up and down between the floor and the roof, and that's gonna do a lot of damage. But he's slow and pretty easy to hit. I don't think he's gonna be any higher than B tier, unfortunately. Let's take a look at Dr. Frost. Dr. Frost is one of the slowest cards in the game, and that makes him very hard to main. He can do a lot of damage, and he also has pretty good range with his ultimate ability, and his main fire can do a lot of damage at once on bunkers, but you have to get him there, and that's pretty hard because he's a very slow card and pretty easy to hit. I'm gonna place him in C tier. So group cards are gonna be the cards that are better when you stay in groups with your AI. So let's take for example OK. OK has a turret that can heal cards that are close to it. Usually the cards don't really stay in that area, but if you're using him during a push, he can put that turret on a bunker and that's gonna heal the cards that are rushing a bunker. But his main fire I think is pretty bad and inconsistent. He's slow, he's hard to kill. I'm gonna place him in D tier. Okay, let's take a look at Baron Voodoo. Baron Voodoo has a pretty unique ability that makes him able to respawn fraggers. I think this ability is pretty damn good during a push when a lot of cards die at once, but I haven't seen anyone really use it too well. I think there's something wrong with him somewhere because he doesn't work too well, but if you're good at him, just keep using him. I just think he can be good in theory, but in practice, I haven't seen it. I'm not going to be placing him any higher than B tier. Alright, let's take a look at Queen Boom and BB. I think honestly BB is just buff Queen Boom. He has more damage despite his nerf. His heal is also better during a push I think because he can permanently heal cards and not just temporarily like Queen Booms. So I think BB deserves a whole spot higher than Queen Boom. I'm gonna place him in S tier, and I'm gonna place Queen Boom in A tier. The last group card is gonna be Cypher. I think he's a group card because the cards that are around him during his ultimate ability are going to take more damage. So if it means that if you're close to your AI, they're gonna do more damage to the cards around you. I'm gonna place him in S tier because his main fire is also very good on bunkers and on players, and overall he's just a good card. So these are the cards that should be used in a certain way to lure enemies in a place to do damage to them. So let's take for example Cybercup. Cybercup is probably one of the best examples of a trapping card. So when you play Cybercup, you're gonna want to place your jail at the right place. So that's either in a channel where AI walk through regularly, or it's at the tight corner when you can lure them into the jail and where they can just get fragged. So say you're in a bunker and you're getting chased by defensive cards. You can just place your jail at the right place and walk through it, try to lure them in, and if they get on the jail, they're gonna die. Because his main fire is pretty bad. So that's probably the only way to get a lot of kills with him. He's pretty bad at getting kills when you play him. I'm gonna place him in C tier I think. The boss has a pretty similar playstyle. You're gonna want to lure enemies into a certain place where you can use his ultimate ability to get as many of them as you can. Now compared to Cybercup, He has a much better main fire. It's a shotgun that's very good in the close range, but it can also be pretty good in the long range because his pennies are gonna go very far. But he's pretty slow and he has low HP, so I'm just gonna place him in A tier. JB's ult makes him able to throw mines at the ground, and if enemies walk on them, they get taken a lot of damage. Now, since you can use his ult frequently, you can do a lot of damage with it on the long term. He's also pretty good on a bunker because you can use his mine to protect you. If a card tries to get near you, they're gonna walk on your mine, and you're probably gonna kill them before they do. I think JB is just very solid. He's pretty slow, but he's got okay damage. I'm gonna place him in A tier. Mimi is able to create a very long wall in front of her, and that can get yourself away from bad situations. She's not very fast and she has bad damage, so even if she has a very good ultimate ability, I'm still gonna place her in B tier. Scout and Nutty can place his turrets at the right place and make a lot of damage. But his main fire is pretty inconsistent when you try to get frags. He is slow and it's pretty easy to hit him. So I think Scout and Nutty is going to be a C tier. Okay, let's take a look at Hades. So Hades has pretty high damage and long range, so she's able to get a lot of frags. She also has a pretty deadly ultimate ability with which she can poison enemies, and if they don't get health back, they just die. So that's pretty damn good against AIs because they don't get health packs. She's pretty slow, but she doesn't need to be that fast because of her range. I'm gonna place her in A tier. Okay, let's take a look at the cards that are going to be used for their knockback. So your goal with them is usually going to be to knock cards off the map. Let's start with Rip and Fin and Striker. Both of these cards are going to be pretty good at launching cards off the map. Striker is usually going to be harder to use. He's also less tanky and has a little bit less damage, but he's faster, so you can really master him. I still think Rip and Fin is going to be slightly better because he can get more cards with his ultimate ability. It's also more consistent, and usually you're just going to want to play him because Striker is pretty hard to master. I'm going to be placing Rip and Fin in S tier and Striker a little bit lower on S tier. Jet was one of my first mains in the game, and I think a lot of people are in the same situation. She's pretty good on bunkers, and she's also a pretty good B2B character because she can go from one bunker to the other pretty well. I think she's pretty inconsistent when you try to get frags with her, but on a bunker she's fine. I'm gonna place her in A tier. Okay, let's go over the two last knockback cards, which are Querza and Nautica. They both have pretty bad damage, but I would say Querza has more damage than Nautica, so that makes her a lot better. I think Nautica is a really trash card. Her ult can knock players off the map, but it's pretty hard. And Querza, you can usually get cards off the map more consistently. It's still very bad. I'm gonna place Querza in C tier and Nautica in D tier. So these are the cards that I think just aren't very good. I haven't found a way to play them which particularly works. And yeah, let's just go over them. Rickrock. I just don't think his damage is high enough to do anything. On the bunkers he's bad. His freest can be good, but his damage is so bad that usually he doesn't even get one frag with it. He's gonna be a D tier for me. Dan is pretty much the same thing. He has bad damage and his ult is probably better because he can heal, and it's pretty hard to get rid of him when he heals correctly. I'm gonna place him in D tier. Cybergirl has okay damage, but her ultimate ability is not crazy. I'm gonna place her in C tier. Frank can have a lot of damage, but he's too slow to do anything. He's gonna be a D tier for me. Mr. Tiger. I don't know why, but he feels really good when you play him. However, he doesn't have anything that is particularly good about him, except his ultimate ability, which is pretty good at, at hitting a lot of cards that are in a certain area. But still, I'm gonna place him in C tier because he's pretty bad in general. So Valkia has also a pretty good ult, and she usually gets one frag with it. She doesn't have range, but she's very slow, and her damage of course is bad. I'm gonna place her in D tier. And Avalanche, I'm not even gonna waste time with him. He's bad at every single thing he does. I'm gonna place him in E tier. And Slimer. Slimer has a useless ult. I think he's bad in general. And his damage is okay when you hit it, but his range is not crazy. He's pretty inconsistent. He's slow. I'm gonna place him in D tier. So yeah, that is going to conclude my first video. This is what the tier list looks so far. I hope you guys subscribe for the next video, which is going to come out probably in a week or so. I'm going to cover all of the cards that aren't on the tier list yet. So yeah, stick around for that. And I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.